My in-laws moved into our house temporarily and refused to leave. So I sold the house without telling them. Now they are regretting what they did. I, 34 am, never thought I'd be the kind of person to do something this drastic. But after everything that's happened over the past year and a half, I honestly don't regret it. Well, maybe I regret not doing it sooner. It all started in January last year when my wife's parents lost their home. They'd made some questionable investment decisions, got caught up in what turned out to be a semi-fraudulent real estate scheme, and eventually couldn't keep up with their mortgage payments. My wife was absolutely devastated when they called us crying about the foreclosure notice. She begged me to let them stay with us, just until they get back on their feet. I agreed because, well, they're family, and we had the space in our 4-bedroom house. Plus, they'd always been decent to me before this. Not exactly warm, but civil enough. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags from day one. They showed up with 4 carloads of stuff for what was supposed to be a temporary stay. My mother-in-law immediately started rearranging our kitchen, claiming she needed things properly organized to cook for us. My father-in-law took over the garage, setting up what he called his temporary workshop that somehow required permanent shelving installations. Within 2 weeks, when I brought up helping them look for apartments, my mother-in-law burst into tears about how they couldn't possibly afford anything in this market. My father-in-law just sat there silently, nodding along and occasionally muttering about today's crazy prices. I later found out they hadn't even started looking. Not a single application, not one phone call to a realtor, nothing. The situation deteriorated faster than I could have imagined. They completely took over our home, treating it like their own personal space with zero regard for our boundaries. They rearranged furniture without asking, criticized everything from my cooking to my parenting style, and acted like they owned the place. They even started telling our kids, 7 and 9, that they shouldn't listen to me because I'm too strict and don't understand family values. They'd countermand my parenting decisions right in front of the children, completely undermining my authority in my own home. The final straw came when they converted our home office, where I work remotely 3 days a week, into their permanent bedroom while I was away on a business trip. I came back to find all my stuff cramped into a corner of the basement, my desk disassembled, and my filing cabinets temporarily stored in the garage. Their explanation? We need a proper bedroom, and you can work anywhere with a laptop. They didn't even pretend it was temporary anymore. I tried talking to my wife multiple times, but she always defended them. They're just going through a rough time, she'd say. Or they're my parents, what am I supposed to do? When I suggested couples counseling, she refused, saying I was being dramatic and unsympathetic to her parents' situation. Every conversation about them turned into an argument, with her accusing me of not understanding family loyalty and me feeling like I was losing my mind. The situation was affecting every aspect of our lives. Our kids were confused by the constant tension and mixed messages. Our intimacy was non-existent. It's hard to feel romantic when your in-laws are constantly hovering and making comments about everything. My work performance was suffering because I couldn't concentrate in the makeshift basement office, which had terrible lighting and spotty internet connection. My wife and I barely talked anymore except about practical matters or to argue about her parents. After 8 months of this nightmare, I made a discovery that changed everything. While organizing some mail that had been misplaced by them, of course, I found several bank statements they'd accidentally left out. They had been receiving pension payments and Social Security all along, significantly more than they'd led us to believe. They had enough to afford a decent apartment in our area, even with current market rates. They had just been banking that money while living with us rent-free. When I confronted them about it, my father-in-law actually laughed and said, "Why would we waste money on rent when we have a perfectly good setup here?" My mother-in-law chimed in with, "We're family, and family takes care of each other." The way they said it, so smug and entitled, something in me just snapped. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I started plotting. I work in real estate development, so I know the market well. Our house had appreciated significantly since we bought it 5 years ago. I spoke to a lawyer friend who confirmed that since only my name was on the deed, we bought it before marriage and never changed the paperwork. I could legally sell it. He advised against it, saying it would cause massive problems in my marriage, but also confirmed it was technically legal. Over the next month, I quietly listed the house, conducted private showings while everyone was out, and finally accepted an offer well above market value. I didn't tell anyone, not my wife, not the in-laws, no one. I made sure all the paperwork and communications went through my office address. I even created a new email account just for the sale. The day after closing, I came home with official eviction notices for everyone. I waited until dinner, when we were all at the table, a rare occurrence since the in-laws usually ate in front of the TV in their room. I handed out the notices and watched their faces as they read them. The look on my father-in-law's face when he realized I wasn't bluffing, I'll never forget it. He turned pale, then red, then started sputtering about his rights as a tenant. My wife was shocked into silence, but what really got to her was when I pulled out copies of her parents' bank statements and explained how they'd been manipulating her all along. She'd had no idea about their financial situation. They had been playing on her emotions, using her love and guilt to maintain their comfortable setup at our expense. The next few days were chaos. My father-in-law threatened to sue me. His lawyer quickly set him straight about tenant rights and eviction notices. My mother-in-law alternated between crying fits and angry tirades about family loyalty. My wife barely spoke to me, but I could see her wrestling with the revelation about her parents' deception. Surprisingly, they found an apartment within a week of receiving the eviction notice. Funny how quickly they could move when they had to. It was even in a nice area, about 20 minutes from our old house. They tried to delay moving out, claiming they needed more time to pack, but I stood firm on the 30-day deadline. We moved into a temporary rental while looking for a new house. The first few weeks were tense. My wife was angry about my secrecy, hurt by her parents' manipulation, and uncertain about our future. I understood her feelings and suggested couples counseling again. This time, she agreed. That was 4 months ago. We're still in therapy, working through trust issues on both sides. I've apologized repeatedly for going behind her back, and she's acknowledged that her parents' behavior was toxic and manipulative. We're slowly rebuilding our relationship, learning to communicate better and set boundaries together. The money from the house sale is in a joint account for our next home purchase. We're taking our time finding the right place, making sure we're both completely comfortable with the decision. Our kids are doing better now that the tension is gone, though they miss their grandparents, who are now only allowed supervised visits. Her parents haven't spoken to me since they moved out, which honestly feels like an unexpected bonus. They still try to guilt-trip my wife occasionally, but therapy has helped her recognize and resist their manipulation tactics. She started setting her own boundaries with them, which has been amazing to watch. I know what I did was extreme, maybe even wrong. But after watching these people steamroll over every boundary, ignore every reasonable request, and manipulate my wife's emotions for nearly a year, I don't regret taking back control of our life. Sometimes the nuclear option is the only option left when all other avenues have been exhausted. The house sold for enough that everyone landed on their feet. My wife and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship, stronger than before, because now we understand the importance of standing together against toxic family dynamics. Her parents are living comfortably in their own place, probably plotting their next move, but that's no longer our problem. Edit. Since many are asking, yes, I've apologized to my wife for going behind her back. We're working through it in therapy. The money from the house sale is in a joint account for our next home purchase. I know I handled this badly, but it was either this or watch my marriage crumble under the weight of toxic family dynamics. Edit 2. For those suggesting I should have just talked it out more, I tried. For 8 months straight. Family meetings, individual conversations, written agreements, everything. They smiled, nodded, and ignored every single attempt at establishing boundaries. They knew exactly what they were doing and counted on my wife's emotional attachment to keep their situation secure. Edit 3. Thank you for all the awards and support. To clarify some common questions, yes, I had documentation of all the previous conversations and attempts to resolve this. No, I couldn't have just kicked them out normally because my wife wouldn't have supported it, and they knew that. Yes, I realized selling the house was nuclear, but it was the only way to force a resolution that didn't involve divorcing my wife, which I didn't want to do. TLDR, in-laws moved in temporarily, refused to leave despite having means to do so, took over our house, and manipulated my wife's emotions. I secretly sold the house and served everyone eviction notices. Now rebuilding my marriage while in-laws finally live in their own place.